This is Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. He's been in charge of Russia for 20 years. He likes to wear his $10,000 padded jacket to his political rallies and hang out on his $700 million yacht with his gymnast mistress. But before discussing his wealth, let's talk briefly about how he became the biggest bear of Mother Russia. It's the 1990s, and the Soviet Union has just collapsed. Our friend Putin here, who used to be a KGB intelligence officer, decides to enter the world of politics, and he eventually won the presidential election in the year 2000. He did have some tricks up his sleeve to win the hearts of the Russian people. He went after those oligarchs, the big shots with lots of money, and used the country's oil and natural gas resources to boost the economy. People loved seeing a strong Russia, and Vlad knew how to play the game. We must admit he's quite the showman. But then Putin started to raise a few eyebrows with all those assassinations, cracking down on freedom of speech. Recently, he even changed the constitution to stay in power until at least 2036, when he will be 84. Talk about a long-term retirement plan. And let's not forget Chechnya, Crimea, Georgia, Syria, and Ukraine. He just couldn't resist causing a few headaches for the West. Our Vlad is quite the troublemaker. Now, let's talk about the money, because here's where things get really interesting. Vlad claims to earn a modest $140,000 a year and live in a small apartment, but there are suspicions that he's hiding some serious wealth. Putin owns his assets anonymously under various aliases and ghost companies. Even Forbes, which has been tracing global wealth for decades, says Putin's wealth is the biggest puzzle to be solved. They say it's even harder to track than the assets of the British monarchs and the drug lords. In 2012, Russian opposition leader Nemtsov claimed that Putin owns 20 properties, including a luxury resort in a mountainous region, dozens of private planes, and 4 yachts. He also claimed to have identified 11 luxury watches valued at $700,000 each. Mysteriously, Nemtsov was shot dead on the Moscow River Bridge in 2015. While Nemtsov had an investigation and 5 culprits were found, the motive behind the assassination remains a mystery. But it is clear that his removal was of benefit to Putin. Alexei Navalny, a Russian anti-regime figure who is currently imprisoned, disclosed that Putin also owns secret funds and has an ultra-luxurious resort known as the Putin Palace near the Black Sea, which cost more than $1 billion to build. Of course, he was suddenly designated as a terrorist and was sent to prison. Yet again, pretty convenient for him. So we know Putin is a billionaire at the very least. But there is also an opinion that Vladimir Putin's assets amount to more than $200 billion. If true, he would be the richest person on earth, richer than the kings of Saudi Arabia, UAE, United Kingdom, and Jeff Bezos combined. Come on, Jeffrey, put your back into it. So how did he accumulate his wealth? By beating up oligarchs and putting them up in line. In 2003, Putin made a deal with the oligarchs after arresting billionaire Mikhail Khodorkovsky for tax evasion. The deal was to hand over 50% of their assets to the state, while allowing them to keep the remaining 50%. Those who did not comply had their assets seized and were put in prison. Of course, the oligarchs didn't send the money directly to Putin's bank account like we do between friends. They were forced to sell their company shares and assets to a state-owned company in exchange for government contracts and business rights. For example, Roman Abramovich sold his oil company shares to the state-owned company Gazprom and received $13.1 billion in cash. Then he went on to do some football business in England. Anyway, this strengthened Putin's control over Russia's oil and gas assets since he is the final boss of the state-owned companies in Russia. Recently, there has been a lot of movement from the West to sanction Russia, but it seems to have a limited impact because China and India are buying tons of oil to Russia and reselling them to the Western countries. Talk about free money, right? In short, Putin is a multi-billionaire who got rich by beating up other rich men in Russia and controlling a big portion of Russia's oil and gas industry. Is he the richest man in the world? It's highly probable considering that Russia is the 3rd largest oil producer and the 2nd largest natural gas producer in the world. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, proletariats.